Thanksgiving's over. We're at the end of the year, and it's time for Christmas. So tonight, let's think about Christmas a little bit, and let's talk about a Christmas story. We all know about Ebenezer Scrooge, Charles Dickens. Well, let's think about that story a little bit. Ebenezer Scrooge. What happened in the movie of Ebenezer Scrooge? At the beginning of the movie, he's mean. He's awful, cantankerous, helps nobody. And interesting enough, his name was Scrooge. This makes sense, right? But then in the middle of the movie, he has a very significant emotional event that transitions him to a whole new personality and character. So now he's helpful, he's kind, he's generous, he's a help to everybody. But interesting enough, his name changes. People start calling him Ebenezer. So now we have a story of two contrasting personalities, but along with those two contrasting personalities, we have two contrasting names. Scrooge, mean, awful. But then the nice guy, the helpful guy, is Ebenezer. Ebenezer, let's talk about Ebenezer tonight. Who or what is your Ebenezer? Let's focus on that. I want to show you something. It's a picture. It's simply a picture of a rock, isn't it? Well, before this night's over, in the next few minutes, we're going to see the picture again, but I hope you're going to see it with a completely different understanding of that picture of rocks. Why would you show me rocks in the first place? Many authors today, unlike the authors in the past, the authors of the past actually used the Bible, often as references. And Charles Dickens was no different. So how does that fit into the story of Ebenezer Scrooge? Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 7. This is a long story, so we're only going to summarize it. But the Israelites had turned away from God and were aligning themselves with the pagans, worshiping the foreign gods and idols. And guess what? They had an enemy, the Philistines, and the Philistines were constantly wiping them out in war battles. So they got a great idea. Let's get the Ark of the Covenant, and we'll take the Ark of the Covenant into battle with us, and we'll be victorious because God will be with us. Well, they did, and they got slaughtered. Tens of thousands were slaughtered. And so they went to Samuel. Samuel, what happened? What happened? So Samuel gathered all the Israelites together in Mizpah to pray to God and redirect themselves and start worshiping God. So like right now, let's think about what they did. They brought the Ark of the Covenant and it didn't work. Oh my gosh, why didn't it work? Because what were they placing their faith in? What were they placing their trust in? Was it really God, or was it in a box, an inanimate object, a structure? That's really what they were believing. If we have this structure with us in battle, we'll be victorious. So they were trusting the box. They weren't trusting God in reality. Well, when they were all gathered together in Mizpah, for the Israelites, it was wonderful. They were all coming together. They were going to turn around. They were going to turn their backs on the pagan way of life, and they were going to start worshiping God. Fantastic! Except for it wasn't so fantastic because the Philistines, they thought that was a great idea too. Because think about it. Their enemies, the Israelites, were all gathered together and concentrated in one place. Militarily, that's strategically fantastic, isn't it? Because they could come in and wipe all the Israelites out once and for all. Well, the Israelites knew the Philistines were coming, and they were afraid, of course, so they went to Samuel and asked Samuel to pray to God. Well, in the course of the story, the Philistines were defeated, and the Israelites were victorious. Why? Because now they were actually placing their trust in God. Okay, so now let's cycle back to Ebenezer. What does any of this have to do with Ebenezer and a Christmas story? Well, it was common in the Old Testament when to commemorate an event that was victorious and successful, and they attributed the success to God, they built a monument of rocks. Therefore, you have your rocks, the rocks that we saw. It was a monument to God and how God had helped them. Well, Samuel built the monument. He built the rocks, and he called the rocks rock of our help, or thus far God has helped us. But the term he called it was Ebenezer. And that's what Ebenezer means. God who helps us, or the rock of our help. And to just read a quick verse, 1 Samuel 2:2, there is no one holy like the Lord. There is no one besides you. There is no rock like our God. So rocks were a symbol of strength and security, because it was attributed to God, and they used this monument. So they called this monument Ebenezer. So now that cycles us back to why the story Ebenezer, he was out there helping everybody. Well, this was attributed to God had helped them, the Israelites, and they called it Ebenezer. So now that we know a story, let's look at those rocks again in this regard. So now, maybe we can look at that same picture of the rock, but it says there is no rock like our God, or in other words, Ebenezer. And that's in Samuel. So now perhaps we can see that same picture of rocks in a different light. But the question I want to ask tonight is, we're coming into the Christmas season. Let's really focus, look deep within ourselves. As the Israelites turned to God for their help and their rock, we know it's been a rough year, 2020, and we don't know what 2021 is going to be either. The elections are over. We don't know what's going to happen. So let's look within ourselves and ask ourselves the question, who is my Ebenezer? Or perhaps, what is my Ebenezer? It could be a physical thing, just like the Israelites were looking to a box. Well, you know, we look at boxes of our own. Our jobs, our homes, our cars, perhaps our positions, or perhaps we do great things. You know what? Even what we do for the church could in a way become an idol, because, oh, look what I do, look what I do. So are we really focused on God, or are we really focused on what we do? So let's ask ourselves again this year, this Christmas season and coming into the year, who is my Ebenezer? What is my Ebenezer? So with that, Merry Christmas and God bless.